has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast. Hour 3 of C2C on a Misery Monday. We've been talking about college football. We're going to continue with that. Make sure you get the SportsGrid app on iOS or Android in the Play Store. You can get it. It's free. You're going to love it. It's got everything. You can listen to the network. You can watch the network on the app. It's got all the stories, highlights, videos, odds, in-game odds, you name it. Follow your favorite host like Carver High. You're good to go. We're also streaming on X. You just have to go to SportsGrid-Live, and you're Gandhi. You're going to love it. It's all day, every day. We're huge on there. Everybody's digging it. They just won't admit it. All right. We have a Big 12 title game, and no one saw this coming. I guess some people may have believed that Iowa State was going to be there with Utah. Utah was favored to win the conference, and they were a disaster this year, to be honest. Let's be fair. And Arizona State has been kick-ass.
They were, of course, picked to finish last in the Big 12 this year in the preseason. They, of course, were one of the teams coming into the league, and they finished off a 10-2 year with a 49-7 smashing of their rival Arizona, who was one of the favorites also. They were one of the top 3 or 4 teams at the beginning of the year, and they had an awful season. Iowa State will join them after beating Kansas State 29-21. So it'll be Arizona State, and Iowa State, Saturday afternoon in Dallas for the Big 12 title game. Winner will get a spot in the college football playoff. Those will be the stakes. So basically, call it like it is. It's a playoff game. That is one conference title game that is a playoff game this Saturday between those two. Elsewhere, SMU continues to win. They beat Cal 38-6. Alabama beat Auburn 28-14. They did cover the 11, bounce back, of course, after their loss to fights in that game, too. There was a lot of fights in the Alabama-Auburn game as well. Oregon smoked Washington. Texas beat Texas A&M. I'll ask you this, because they're getting ready to play Georgia now this week. You saw it, too, and we've said this all year. We thought Arch Manning should be playing over Ewers. Arch came in the game for what? One play there in the first half and scored a touchdown on a run. I didn't think Ewers was very good at all in that game against Texas A&M. I don't think anyone's been that impressed with Texas. They're going to be in the playoff even if they lose to Georgia, but can they beat Georgia? They lost to them at home already this year.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia went there and beat their ass, and I think Georgia's better than them. And you know how I feel about Arch Manning. I think he's better than Quinn Ewers, and I think he should have been continuing to start when Ewers came back from injury. And instead they went to Ewers, and it's worked out. But I think the guy with the huge career ahead of him is Manning for sure. And I don't believe in Ewers at the next level in some capacity other than he's like, to me, let's just be honest, to me, he's like Sam Darnold. I mean, that's what he looks like to me. I mean, he's not some, franchise-changing quarterback. Arch Manning is. And I think Sarkisian's going to go back to Ewers. That's what he's done the whole year. That's what he did to Manning after all of his success. He said, sit down. I'm going to put this guy back in. That's his guy, and he's going to ride him all the way. And it is what it is. He's the coach.
How is Texas favored in this game this week? How is Texas favored in this game against Georgia? I just don't get it. Like, they've beat their ass once. The game's in Atlanta. Like, I don't understand. That's very fishy. That Texas is favored.
And I will jump in for the Bulldogs. There are more Bulldog fans in Atlanta than there are Falcon fans. Trust me, you.
That's very true. Now, Georgia also played a wild game Friday night against Georgia Tech. The dopey 8 overtimes, and man, does that system stupid with the back-and-forth 2-point conversions after the first 2 overtimes. I thought Georgia Tech blew it, Scotty. I thought when they scored that touchdown in the first overtime, the guy should have went went for two right there. I think Georgia scored first, kicked the extra point. Georgia Tech scored. I thought that guy should have tried for the win right there and won it. And he ended up going back and forth, and he lost.
And that's why when he took his headset off, he literally said, "It's my fault." It was on his forehead. You could see it. He was so upset with himself because he knew he had a chance to win that game, and they blew it. I mean, they blew the game anyway. They were up 17-0.
They blew it long before not going for two in the first overtime. Yes, they had a bunch of King played great for Georgia Tech in that game. It was very unfortunate that they had to lose it. It is what it is, though. Also on Friday, Travis Hunter basically sealed up the Heisman in that game with Oklahoma State. He had 3 tutties and an interception. I believe I saw his odds this morning were minus 10,000. He's going to win the Heisman, Scotty.
Yeah, I think it's a done deal, especially with the way Cam Ward lost to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. And it's about numbers and it's about popularity and fame. And Deion Sanders has helped him. He's been his spokesman, his PR agency, his management, his agent. He's been his everything. He has gotten that kid the Heisman without him even having to have all the success on the field. I think Deion sold it to the media, and they do whatever this guy says. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that football team last year, how bad they were and how they drew? Every movie star in the world went to their games. Every famous rock star, every actor. I mean, you name it. Everything. Chefs, celebrities. I mean, who didn't go? I'm surprised the Queen didn't go when she was still alive to see Deion's crappy team. Then go figure. This year they were really pretty decent. I thought they had a good year. And obviously that kid had a great year with all of his stats, so he's going to win it.
Yes, he is indeed. Here's the AP Top 25. We've told you a couple times, but here's what it looks like. Honestly, it doesn't matter because tomorrow night is what matters. But Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Georgia are the top 5 teams in it. Indiana is 9. Ohio State 7, as we said. They have Alabama 11 and Arizona State 12. South Carolina 13. They dropped Miami pretty far, too.
They beat Tulane.
Yes.
And then they get ranked, but then Tulane gets to go play in the title game after they got their ass beat at home with their big party they had going on down on Bourbon Street, and Memphis went in there and punched them right in the Adam's apple. As far as I'm concerned, now listen, I could care less about that AA conference, but here's the deal. Where I stand, they don't deserve to play for it. They just got beat on their home field by their rival, and they get to go play for a title? I don't care what their record is. They lost again. That's like Ohio State. They lose to a 7-5 team and nothing happens to them. It's unbelievable, this college football. It really is. It's so screwed up. Like, how do you lose that game and then you get to go play for a title? Like, Ohio State lost. They don't get to go play for a title. How is it that they get to go play for a title? I don't even care what their record is. I saw them lose to Memphis. Memphis deserves to play for the title. They beat them in their stadium.
Unfortunately, the Memphis losing that game to UTSA a couple weeks ago is what kept them out of the game because it was their second loss. It will be I'll give you the conference championship matchups after Gabe. We'll clean all that up before we do the NBA and a few other things. I still have other college football to do. A lot of guys got chopped also. Some firings. Chopped. What are you guys getting chopped?
Out of humanity.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Fillet Indiana. They would smash them.
What?
Honestly.
Do you listen to yourself speak? That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
As so many
if
teams
they would have
do.
won that football, yes, that's you're
but that's the thing, guys.
correct.
No.
The
Stop.
only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
He shouldn't need to hire outside help at this point to be able to help him, let alone outside help, Joe, that used to work for him.
Until they get him out of the way, I just don't see how this gets any better. And like you said, who are you picking from? Because most people who know the league want nothing to do with the ownership group there with the Jets.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
You can catch Sports Rage weeknights at 10 Eastern with Gabe Morency, and you can catch him on Coast to Coast every day. And how about Sunday Pain Day at night, the night game? He does that as well on SportsGrid, taking it to an entirely different level. We always love a double shot from Vancouver every day on C2C. Gabe, good to see you. I want to dedicate this first block to the Michigan win. I loved it. I bet on them. I went crazy. I hate Ohio State. Everyone knows it. More than any team on earth in college football, I hate them. Ever since the Miami national championship game and that communist Porter ref. So I've hated them my whole life anyway. And my mom and dad conceived me in Ann Arbor on a bottle of Belvedere on a snowy night. So my mom went to Michigan, my dad went to law school there, and they had sex. Are we on the air? Don't talk about sex. Okay. Anyway, so what amazes me is not that they won. What amazes me is that nothing happened to Ohio State other than they aren't playing for a Big Ten title, and they get to go to the playoffs with their cushy ranking. They went from 2 to 7. It's like, they lost to, let's just face facts. Michigan has never been 7-5 and beaten Ohio State in Columbus. So it was a stunning win, but I thought they deserved to fall further. And there should be some kind of punishment losing to a 5-loss team, your rival in your stadium in front of 105,000 people.
This is the downfall of the modern college football playoff format, which we always have to tinker and always have to adjust with every 10 years, 12 years, or whatever it is. And finally, greed got the best of everybody. And, Scott, it was fine the way that it was with 4 teams. You know why? Because there was actually ramifications, as you stated. Ohio State you lost to the Ducks. So, listen, the Ohio State Buckeyes, guys, if you look at their schedule this year, they played, and this isn't a great Michigan team, all right? So they played Penn State, they played the Oregon Ducks, and they played the Michigan Wolverines. Those were their 3 games on the schedule. It's like, all right, these are sort of Indiana. And Indiana. So Indiana this year. And they win 2 of them. In past years, Scott, that sends you to the Outback Bowl. It's like, all right, you lost twice, you're out of the mix, and move on. There's no ramifications anymore for losing. So I warned everybody about this. I said, all right, you think the rivalry games are still cool? They don't mean as much anymore. They don't mean anything. I remember last year, Scott, when Michigan were undefeated, it was like, man, you got to beat Ohio State. Like, there was a chance before. You had one loss. You were on the outside looking in. It was like, yeah, sorry, but you lost to this team, and they're undefeated, and you're not. Was it like a level of perfection that you needed? Now, we're probably going to have a 3-loss Alabama team backdoor this thing. There's going to be a 3-loss team in the playoffs, right? It's going to be South Carolina,
Alabama, or South Carolina with 3 losses.
Oh God! Well, we know what's going to happen there, right?
Yeah, but
Greg
South Carolina's
Sankey's
playing better than Alabama.
Yeah, but South Carolina, you know how it works. It's all brand name. I don't want to get into this stupid stuff though with these 3-loss teams, dude. Even Illinois had an argument, right? I saw their coach Belima Lane Kiffin was crying on Twitter about how they deserve to be in the playoffs because of all their metrics, and he said, "Oh yeah, so I guess we do too." And he fired back, and he had strength of schedule, wins, losses, and Illinois was more impressive than Ole Miss was, right? So we're going to get into, we're splitting hairs here. To me, it's almost, Scott, like we're arguing who the 69th best team is to get into the college basketball tournament. Not to disrespect these 3-loss football teams, but that's what we're doing here, right? It's like, all right, which one of these teams should,
an Ole Miss Illinois game? I'd take Ole Miss with that defense of theirs.
I agree with that. I think Ole Miss would beat Illinois. If it was in Ole Miss. If it was in Illinois, I'm not sure. Put it this way. Like, we hear all this assumption all the time. Well, if these SEC teams are like Nick Saban said it last week. Well, if Ole Miss were in the Big 12 or if Ole Miss were in the ACC, they wouldn't lose as many games. What conference are Georgia Tech in? They should have beaten Georgia the other night, right? They're an ACC team.
Right.
Texas just walked in from the Big 12 and basically won your conference in their first year. And how about the Pac-12, Scott? Arizona State walks in and goes to the conference championship game in their first year. How about the Oregon Ducks leaving the Pac-12, dominating the Big 10 in their first year? Right? It's amazing. All these teams showing up. Oh, they're going to struggle. They won't do as well. Pac-12 sucks. Well, I guess they didn't suck as much as people said. That's the big crime of this. I just want to say, Scott, it's a real shame. It's too bad. You and I should have been the commissioners of the Pac-12. They'd be thriving. I know they're coming back in a miniature, with the small, the smaller setting, but they had such a great conference. They just had bad management, bad TV deals, but the quality of play. Don't kid yourself. That was elite football that they were playing, and now it's showing.
Great. I loved it, and I always loved it. My whole life, I loved it, and I love the Pac-12 and late night West Coast football. I thought it was, and I went to 1 million games. I thought it was fantastic. Do you think Ryan Day gets fired after he loses in the playoff? Because they'll lose, and Carver High thinks their quarterback Howard's awful, and they get to go to the playoff either way. But they lost to Michigan 4 straight years. Does he get fired?
I said the same thing all year about this, even before the year started. I was baffled by the fact that they spent $20 million on players, the most ever spent in college football history, obviously, and they admitted it. They said, yeah, we have a $20 million payroll this year, and they decided that Will Howard was the best quarterback that money could buy. Hell, they would have been better off keeping Kyle McCord. How's McCord doing with Syracuse?
Great.
They threw McCord under the bus because he lost to Michigan. And as far as the Michigan stuff is concerned, Michigan hate Ohio State, but at the same point in time, not as much as Ohio State obsesses over Michigan, right? Like with their countdown clocks. Ryan Day, next to my father dying, it's the worst day of my life. You won't hear Michigan saying that. Ohio State psyched themselves out, bro. They take it so seriously in this life and death stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why they choke all the time.
You know, you and I have been around a long time. Bo Schembechler took Ohio State very seriously. He was obsessed with them.
Yeah, he wasn't talking about dying, though, and about to kill himself.
I think they both hate each other's guts.
it's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Fillet Indiana. They would smash them. Honestly.
Do you listen to yourself speak? That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
As so many
if
teams
they
do.
Won that football. Yes, that's you're
but that's the thing, Johnny. No. Stop.
The only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
He shouldn't need to hire outside help at this point to be able to help him, let alone outside help, Joe, that used to work for him.
Until they get him out of the way, I just don't see how this gets any better. And like you said, who are you picking from? Because most people who know the league want nothing to do with the ownership group there with the Jets.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
We're talking to my guy Morency, and I said earlier today that to me it's the Bills and Steelers, and I know everyone wants to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs with all their one-score wins, and they're going for 3 straight Super Bowls and all the rest.
They're magic.
It's your job to beat them in the playoffs. You owe everyone that, and you owe yourselves that. You can't get off the schneid until you beat them in the playoffs. That's all that matters. And then we could have the Steelers and the Bills play for the right to go to the Super Bowl.
Well, Pittsburgh Steelers are lingering right now as well for a home field advantage. And trying to get that top seed. Because I'm telling you what, the Kansas City Chiefs, you talked about it, they keep on miraculously pulling out these wins, against all odds. But not in like some heroic fashion. Like the other team just finds a way all the time. But with that being stated, guys, the Kansas City Chiefs schedule, it gets real now. It gets real from here on out. And, people always talk about, the league loves the Chiefs and they get all the calls and they want them to win with Taylor Swift and all this. Finally, their popularity is going to backfire a little bit on them. They're on TV like every game almost from here on out. And the NFL holiday season is twisted. Like, they've got the Chiefs playing 3 games in 9 days, guys. Like, this is like some over-the-top arena football league
Christmas
stuff. Yes, sir. Exactly. And they're playing, they play on like the 21st. Then they play on the 25th. They play on if you look at the schedule, it's condensed. They have 4 games in 19 days, this team. They're older. They're beat up as it is. They're not going to survive it. And, they play pretty good teams. As Scott just said, they're in Pittsburgh on Christmas Day. They get the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, and the Chargers are a good team. And the Chiefs aren't great. Like, the Chargers could beat them. If you look at their schedule, I think they're going to stumble, and it opens up the door potentially for the Buffalo Bills, although the Bills go to Detroit, guys, in 2 weeks. You want to talk about a big-time regular season fun football game for the holidays. The Buffalo Bills are in Detroit 2 Sundays from now. But you look at the Bills' schedule, guys, they get the Rams this week in L.A., and then they go to Detroit, Buffalo. So it's the last 2 trips for them here. And then after that, they're basically at home and on the East Coast for the rest of the season. They play the Patriots twice and the Jets once. So it's cruise control for the Bills once they get through these next two games. Maybe the Bills lose another game. I think they'll beat the Rams. And I think the Bills can beat the Lions, actually, but that's going to be a super fun game in a couple of weeks.
My 34C said she would sleep with all of my friends if I went to the Christmas game with the Chiefs and left the family to go.
That's a pretty big game to miss, actually. Yeah, that's a pretty important game.
She threatened to sleep with all my friends, not just one of them, all of them. She was going to, just like as a group, it'd be like a really bad thing for me. So what I did was I scheduled the following week. I'm going to go see them play the Bengals in the last game of the year on January 5th instead of losing my family over going. I wanted to go to the Christmas game. And then I was given all kinds of flack, Morency, from 34C, giving me the business. So what did you think of watching them destroy the 49ers and watch McCaffrey go down and watch the Niners season go down the toilet?
Oh, it was a great time for everybody in Buffalo, and it was one of those smooth rides from a betting perspective. The Bills are just on fire right now. The total was 44.5, and I always tell people, Scott, bet the over in bad weather games. The numbers go down. People always think nothing's going to happen unless it's really, really windy. Bet the over. It barely got there, but it did go over the number. So it was an enjoyable game from a betting perspective. And, I just can't help but think that, if not now, when? This seems like the Buffalo Bills season right now. At least to get there. Pittsburgh are good.
Well, when they lose to the Steelers in the AFC title game, what do you think the score will be? I know they lost to them with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in Buffalo last year, but it's going to be a different beast altogether this time when they go to the B-Low with Russell Wilson and his 10 reindeer that he throws the ball to and that pass rush and that defense that's better than yours. What do you think the Steelers will win by? What do you think the final score will be?
Well, I'm not going to get too ahead of myself yet. Let's see the playoff bracket. Let's see the playoff bracket. Let's see the bracket
it's
first.
Happening.
Speaking of the Steelers
for the
they
world.
get the Browns this
Steelers
week.
Steelers will go to their 9th Super Bowl. Know that, son. You can feel it.
You're getting fired up, huh?
Pittsburgh's going to the
I'm a
Super
Bills fan, man. I take it 1 week at a time. Like I can't look ahead too much.
Pittsburgh. We should go to the B-Low to the game in the snow. I'll throw snowballs at you, Morency.
If they make it to the conference championship game, I'll go. Take the over tonight.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Fillet Indiana. They would smash them. Honestly.
You listen to yourself speak. That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
So many
if
teams
they would have won that football, yes, that's you're
but that's the thing, guys.
correct.
No. Stop.
The only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
He shouldn't need to hire outside help at this point to be able to help him, let alone outside help, Joe, that used to work for him.
Until they get him out of the way, I just don't see how this gets any better. And like you said, who are you picking from? Because most people who know the league want nothing to do with the ownership group there with the Jets.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
I went through it with Jerry Palm. Let's do it again. The conference championship games that are going to go down this week.
Yeah, I'm just telling you who's going to play who. These are all the conference championship games that are going to go on. You have 3 games on Friday night. Western Kentucky, Jacksonville State, and Conference USA. UNLV and Boise State is the Mountain West title game on Friday night. Significant there. Tulane will play Army in the American. Saturday, Iowa State, Arizona State, basically a playoff game in the Big 12. Georgia, Texas, both will be in anyway. Penn State, Oregon, both will be in anyway. And Clemson, SMU does have significance, as you guys just mentioned, because the winner will be in and the loser, Clemson would definitely be out if they lost. SMU would be sweating if they lost, is how that will go.
Yeah, I mean, the games are, I guess they're pretty decent. Like, this doesn't matter anymore to me. All I care about is who's getting into this playoff and those playoff games.
Right.
These games are they have taken a beating. They're taking a back seat now. These conference title games, to me, are just another game. It really is just another game on a Saturday. It's not like, what do you get out of it? I mean, I guess you get the automatic bid, but I'm saying, it's not the same as these next playoff games.
Look, there's 3 games that have juice, and that's obviously because they're win and get in, which is the Big 12 game is win and get in.
Right.
The ACC game with Clemson and I think the Boise game too. I think UNLV is going to get in if they beat Boise and take that spot from them for that group of 5. So I think that game's got a ton.
I think that would be great.
Juice to it as well. It would be great too. And UNLV played them tough in Vegas last month. I've seen that line already go from 6-4 since yesterday. So people are betting UNLV. Well, we shall see on the blue turf on Friday night how that one goes. So not only is it playoff season, but it's chopping season for the teams that did not have good years. West Virginia chops Neil Brown after 6 seasons. Purdue chops Ryan Walters after 2 seasons. UCF coach Gus Malzahn, sounded like he was going to get chopped, and he said, well, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm just going to leave. He's going to go allegedly be the offensive coordinator at Florida State. North Carolina chopped Mac Brown last week when you weren't here. There was some talk that Arthur Smith, Steelers OC, would maybe in line there. He's allegedly not interested in that job.
Yeah, I mean, he said he likes his job, loves his job in Pittsburgh with the Steelers. It is what it is. I think he wants to be an NFL head coach again, and I don't think that's happening. I really don't. First of all, I got to be honest. I do not believe that his play calling is some dynamic facet of why the Steelers are winning. I think they're winning because of Russell Wilson. They got a strong line and running game. They got a really great receiver, and they got a bunch of good receivers that go with them. And they got a great pass rush, and they got a really good defense and secondary. It's that simple, and a good coach. And I think he's a really good assistant coach, and I've already seen him as a head coach, and it was a disaster.
I think you're going to be seeing less and less guys leave the NFL for college. With the way that college is run now, with NIL and the portal, why would you want to leave some cushy gig making big money as an OC in the NFL to go get run through that ringer of trying to pay kids and them all going in the portal every 3 months? I don't think anyone wants anything to do with it. That's why Malzahn's done too. How many of these coaches now just check out from head jobs to go be an offensive coordinator somewhere because they don't want to deal with the nonsense anymore that's going on everywhere? And finally, Stanford star Andrew Luck, former Stanford star Andrew Luck, will be returning to football, Scotty, as the new GM of the Stanford football program. They could use a GM with the way they played.
I thought he was like, is it just the football? That's the gig? It's a GM of football? Because I thought he was like the GM of Stanford now in sports.
No, the football program. He's the general manager of.
Well, they should let him run everything else too, because they don't do anything in anything to begin with. Except women's basketball, and they don't do it in that anymore either. So they should let him run everything. Because whoever's been running it has been running it into the ground. They really have.
Yes, they
Stanford
have.
hasn't mattered in a long time in anything, have they? The Vanderveer chick's the only one that ever won. That's it.
And now
what
people
have they
that
done
run
in football lately, they stink.
And now they're in the ACC of all places, which is just it is what it is, I suppose. There you go, college football,
you get a good
big
education
week.
there.
Get a good education there. There's no doubt about that. You do get that. All right, let's get some NBA in. We only have a couple of games tonight. A few things from the weekend. Lakers beat the Jazz last night, 105-104. I feel like that's like the second or third time the Lakers have played the Jazz this year already, Scotty. I don't think they've covered any of them, right? It seems like the Jazz have played them tight every single time. AD had 33. LeBron took over late.
Yeah, it is what it is. That game, they win by one. It's just not good enough, but at least they won. The Knicks blew out the Pelicans. I watched that. Bridges had 31. I got to tell you, he has been awful with the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like, they gave up, like, the house for this guy, all these number ones, and he has done, like, this is the only game he's had. He had one good game since he's been a Knick.
Yep, and I think I said this to you a week or two ago, and I think the reason why you don't hear about it is because Cat's been so good. So the other acquisition's been so good that it's kind of, hidden the fact that Bridges has been so bad at the start for the Knicks this year. The Cavs beat the Celtics 115-111. Nice weekend for the Cavs. They lost to the Hawks on Friday, and then they go and they beat the Celtics on Sunday. So good win there. And the Rockets beat the Thunder last night. That was a hell of a game. 119-116. Good win for
Fleet going off.
He had 36, I believe. 36 or 39. He was outstanding. Rockets have been good. They've been real good here over the first month and a half.
I love that team. And Şengün, my man can play. He reminds me of Arvydas Sabonis, not the body, but the passing ability for a big. He can do anything from the elbow in the block, and he can pass as good as anyone in the NBA. The guy can really find buckets. He reminds me of Sabonis. The old man could dish. He could really dish.
And last one from last night that I thought was interesting. Clippers beat the Nuggets 126-122. Harden had 37. Joker had a triple-double. Wasn't enough. Harden's got a bunch of 30-point games the last week or two as he's been kind of carrying the Clippers. They've been playing some pretty good ball.
He's never been short on filling it up. He can score, and he's not afraid to shoot or to make it happen. I mean, the guy finds his buckets, and he gets his space, and he lets it fly, and he's always done that. If you look at his career, his best scoring years were in Houston. And now he's starting to score like that again with the Clippers.
NBA Cup group play will finish tomorrow night. There's a ton of significant games. The Hawks have already won Group C. Now, they had the Celtics and the Cavs in that group. And with them beating Cleveland on Friday, they have advanced to the knockout stage. So that's a hell of a job by Atlanta. Atlanta, Houston, and the Warriors are the only three teams that have clinched spots into the knockout round. That means all the other spots, that's 5 other spots, up for grabs tomorrow night in a slew of games. So that's going to be a fun night. Teams are going to be point differential, things like that. A lot at stake tomorrow night. Should be a fun night.
Not bad for the Dubs. They've lost 4 in a row, and yet they're on their way to the knockout round. And then the reason why Atlanta got it done is because of Ice Ray having 20-point, 22-dime games. Who has 20 points and 22 dimes in a basketball game? That's insanity. That's why they're in.
I will give you 4 games tonight. We'll do that when we come back. There's 3 hockey games tonight. There's a couple of college basketball games. So we'll get through all of that.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was Lincoln! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
Fillet Indiana. They would smash them. Honestly.
You listen to yourself speak. That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
So many
if
teams
they would
do.
have won that football, yes, that's you're
but that's the thing, guys. No. Stop.
The only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
He shouldn't need to hire outside help at this point to be able to help him, let alone outside help, Joe, that used to work for him.
Until they get him out of the way, I just don't see how this gets any better. And like you said, who are you picking from? Because most people who know the league want nothing to do with the ownership group there with the Jets.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid.
Let's look at these NBA games tonight, Carver High.
Yes, let's go ahead and do that. We'll start in Atlanta, where the Hawks, who we were just talking about, have the Pelicans in town tonight. The Pelicans are pathetic. They got blasted by the Knicks yesterday. They are 4-17 to start the year, and they are catching 8.5 in Atlanta tonight. 231.5, the big total.
I mean, if you look at what the Knicks did to them, and Atlanta is playing great basketball, you got to go Hawks here and Ice Tray and company in Hot Town at State Farm. The Pelicans look like they're mailing it in.
And I did see Trae Young was a game-time decision. He is in, I just saw. So Young is playing tonight, so that is good to go there. The Heat are in Boston against the Celtics. Celtics minus 9.5, 218.5 is the total tonight. No Zinger tonight for the Celtics. Couple guys out for the Celtics. No Jimmy Butler on the Miami side, so lots of guys sitting here.
I mean, that makes it really unappealing in terms of betting on the Heat. No Butler. I got to rely on Bam and Hero Sandwich in the Garden in Boston. I still think, Zinger never plays, so I don't care if he's not playing. I'm used to him not playing. I still like the Celtics in Boston.
Especially coming off a loss, yes. They lost to the Cavs. You'd like to think they're going to come out with a little bit of something tonight. The Nets are in Chicago against the Bulls. Big number here, 7.5 for the Bulls. 232.5 is the total. Nets do have game time for Cameron Johnson. We'll see if he's going to be out there. But for the most part, everybody else there, 7.5.
You're telling me the Bulls are favored by 7.5?
That's what I'm telling you. Bulls are favored by 7.5.
I like the Nets and the number. I think it'll be a better game than that. I really do. I was going to literally say that I think the Nets should be favored by 7.5. I really do. And I would have taken the Bulls and the 7.5 in Chicago, but I'll still take the Nets and those points. They'd score too much.
They are going to be without Ben Simmons. He's not playing.
So what?
Tonight,
He's awful anyway.
Lakers are in Minnesota.
Go home and don't come back.
Lakers are in Minnesota against the Timberwolves tonight. T-Wolves minus 7.5 here. 219.5 the total. makes me think someone's not playing for the Lakers. They do have AD listed as a game-time decision, but don't have anybody else of significance listed here.
I got to be honest. I like the Lakers and the number based on the way, Minnesota's played this year. They play like they don't care. They play like, oh, we're so great. We'll just flick a switch and turn it on when we have to make the playoffs. That's what they play like every night. And, I think Redick has the Lakers playing ball. I mean, I know they only won by 1 in Utah last night, but like I said, they won. So they put up $1.05. Give me that high risk 8. I'll take it. I'll take a shot. I don't think the T-Wolves have played good basketball this year. Now, they could blow them out tonight and get it done. I'm not opposed to that, but I'm going to take a shot with the Lakers.
There you go. 4 games in the NBA tonight to get tomorrow night. Huge slate with that final night of the NBA Cup group stage. So we'll do all of that tomorrow on C2C. How about hockey?
Everybody loves hockey.
For everybody does love hockey, including in the New York metropolitan area. Whenever you get 2 of the 3 locals together, it's the Devils and the Rangers tonight at the Garden, and the Devils, the road favorite on the other side of the river, minus $1.25 now tonight. 6.5 is the total.
Yeah, my buddy went to see the Rangers the other night, and they lost on his birthday. They haven't been great, but you know what? I like them tonight at the Garden over the Devils at that price with their goalie. I mean, they got a good goalie, and the bottom line is they're very capable of beating the Devils at home. I think it's going to be a good game as always. It's always violent. It's always pretty chippy and good. So I'll take a stab with Mafia's blue shirts.
The Blackhawks are in Toronto against the Maple Leafs. Heavy lumber here, as I'm seeing Toronto upwards of minus 450 for this game tonight. It was 385 this morning. I'm seeing some 450s now, plus 340 for the Blackhawks and a 5.5.
I'd have to puck line it and lay it with Toronto, the 1.5. There's no way I'm betting that money in a hockey game ever in my life.
No, I agree with you. And the Stars are in Utah against the Hockey Club. They are road favorites tonight, minus $1.42. 6.5 the total here.
I think it's going to be a better game than anybody thinks. Dallas played last night, right? So I think it's a dangerous game for Dallas tonight. I think it's the best to just money line it at that $1.40 if you can get it around that price. I don't think they're going to win by 2 goals. I think Utah's going to give them a game tonight in Salt Lake Shakers.
There you go with the hockey, only 3 games. College basketball, it's quiet tonight, and I'm going to tell you why in a moment. But here's what you do have if you want to get involved. UMBC, Georgetown, Air Force, Miami of Ohio, Yale and Rhode Island, Pacific and Colorado, coming off Maui, and Washington State and Nevada. Now, the reason it's light tonight is the next 2 nights, you have this SEC ACC challenge and the Big 12 Big East challenge. There's tons of great games Tuesday and Wednesday night.
Yeah, I'm interested in Tad's Buffs getting it done and covering that number in Boulder against Pacific. And I'll take a stab with Washington State and that fat 11.5 in Reno. I think the Wolfpack are better, but I don't know if they're 12 points better. I really don't. I think that'll be a decent game tonight. All those other games are awful.
They are. And finally, you won't be seeing Danny Hurley in Maui or any other tournament anytime soon, as he said yesterday. No more 3 games in 3-day tournaments for us. Only home and homes, only one-offs. I'm not doing it anymore. That's because he blew a gasket in Maui last week every day.
Well, he's a sore loser. He only knows winning his whole life.
Yep.
And, being around his dad, and he's won at a high level, and then he wins back-to-back national championships. He doesn't know how to lose 3 games in 3 days.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards.
That was
Lincoln!
But he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Fillet Indiana. They would smash them. Honestly.
You listen to yourself speak. That's not a reality question. They have not played each other. You are using hypothetical.
And they got embarrassed.
As so many
if
teams
they would
do.
have won that football, yes, that's you're
but that's the thing, guys. No. Stop.
The only argument is Indiana is a decent football team and a product of their environment.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
He shouldn't need to hire outside help at this point to be able to help him, let alone outside help, Joe, that used to work for him.
Until they get him out of the way, I just don't see how this gets any better. And like you said, who are you picking from? Because most people who know the league want nothing to do with the ownership group there with the Jets.
Ferrall coast to coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, it's time for leftovers, and we've had plenty of them during the Thanksgiving holiday. A lot of leftovers. I'm done with the ham and turkey. I've had it twice each. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm going with a pork loin for Christmas. Can we get a little pork loin going?
We gotta pass off the leftovers here. I do have actually a couple leftover items, some which were from last week, and I thought you should still know. The Dodgers signed Blake Snell to a big deal last week. Must be nice. Man, they're made of money. They also gave their NLCS MVP, Tommy Edman, a 5-year, $74 million extension. So money splashing around out there at Chavez Ravine for the world champion LA
Not a bad
Dodgers.
deal for the Dodgers on Edman, considering the guy carried them to the World Series, and then they only had to give him $74 million over 5 years. They ripped him off.
That's pretty good. Well, they got to underpay a few people, considering what they play. Guys like I know
he's
he was very good.
Star.
I don't know if you remember Jared Porter. He was the Met GM for about a month and a half a few years ago when he got chopped. He did acknowledge over the weekend that he did send inappropriate text messages to a reporter while he was working for the Cubs, which is, of course, the crux of what got him fired from the Met job after a month a few years back. So Jared Porter.
All right, so he got a little carried away. Can we so his life's ruined? His life's ruined. They're going to ruin his life. He's never done anything since. This guy's had his life destroyed because he hit on some chick. Honestly, come on.
Finished.
Come on. I don't know how dirty it was and all the rest, but at some level, can it just go down the toilet after a year or two? How long is this guy going to do a life sentence? Honestly, Brenneman's back in baseball. That took 5 minutes. Can we get this guy a break after all the crimes and misdemeanors, for Christ's sakes? Honestly.
The Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach fight, which was supposed to happen, I guess, this week.
Roach
that has been rebooked for March 1st. There was no reason given
they should rebook
for
it
the
again,
postpone.
as in cancel it.
Scott O'Neill is going to replace Greg Norman as Liv's CEO / commissioner. God bless and good luck to him. Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy against Bryson and Brooks. That match on December 17th. They're going to be playing not just for smiles and giggles, $10 million in crypto on the line for those guys. Now, that's a reason to wake up in the morning. Saudi Arabia is going to host. They're not doing this again. Saudi Arabia is going to host a Winter World Cup in 2034. I mean, didn't we? It just did this with Qatar. We need to go and do this again in 2034. The Bisser, Paul Bissonnette, assaulted by a group of guys at a restaurant in Scottsdale last week. I believe the line was gave out more than he got, right? Did he say something like that? There's like 6 or 7 guys he got into that fight with.
He took on all of them, and he said he
took on all of them.
He gave him way more than he got. So
gave him
the Bisser. I have partied with him and done horrific things with him. He is fun to hang out with. I'll tell you what, that guy snags women like I've never seen anything. Like, I have never seen anything like it. I mean, he was like, this guy was like fracking. He was tapping oil. Like, this guy was Jed Clampett over a 3-day stretch. I saw him frack 4. He had it all going, the Bisser. And then your boy Lou Carnesecca passes at 99, a month shy of 100. That is just evil. God taking it out on sweet Lou.
Awful. One of the all-time greats here in the New York basketball world.
526 wins. Even I know that. What a legend. All right, for Ella finish time. A maniac fatally stabs his girlfriend because he hated her haircut. Now that is how you handle your business. I think you look awful. I'm going to slice you up. Kids packing heat in New York City. The number of teens arrested with guns rises for the 6th consecutive year. Watch out for the kids. They're evil. Parents brutally kill each other as the 11-year-old son is playing video games in the other room. Of course, Grand Theft Auto he was playing while his mom and dad were killing each other. A nut job arrested in Seattle for randomly stabbing 9 people in 38 hours. My man was on the clock, Carver High. Charities are handing out free crack pipes in L.A. on Skid Row. Addicts are selling them to buy more butter. Everybody loves the butter, and especially when you got free crack pipes to go with it. GTD is next. Check out my app. Just search Ferrall. You'll find it. It's badass. And we'll see you tomorrow at 3 on Coast to Coast.
Together, both Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson had huge nights. Aaron Rodgers loves the 2 big targets, and he says if this is going to happen, it's going to be very tough on the defense to decide who they want to go after.
Adams and this kid, Wilson, I won't deny what they can do, but nobody else does jack.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Are they definitely done with Daniel Jones from this point? And any shot that Dable is off the sidelines, meaning he gets fired before next season?
They have a general manager in Joe Shane. Every big move has to get approval by ownership. So look, the bottom line is they don't know who their future quarterback is past this season. Tommy DeVito's clearly not the answer. They don't have it. Drew Lock's not the answer.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Grandma Bear, who owns the football team, probably comes in, gives a little, oh, man, you're such a good little boy out there. Congratulations, the way you coach this football team. I'm never going to fire you.
Totally, I missed you pinching your own cheek as I was looking down and did not know we were getting.
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there with that guy named Ben. Like, that's what your grandma would do to you when you go see her on Thanksgiving or Christmas,
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.